What's up, everybody? This is Slow Mo here, back at you with another video. Today, I am going to talk about something that's a little different than what I typically talk about. I'm going to talk about Sony Pictures and Disney / Marvel Studios in this stalemate, or if you believe all the reports saying that the deal is done, that Spider-Man is no longer in the MCU. I'm gonna talk about all that. But unlike other videos that you may hear about this topic, I'm gonna tell you what's really going on here, and that this is a negotiation tactic. Now, you may be wondering, well, Slow-Mo, how do you know that? Well, here's why. My first exposure to this kind of negotiation tactic came with Verizon and AMC. The studio, AMC. AMC is the home of the TV show The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead was really popular some years ago, probably a top 5 show annually watched. It's not that anymore. But essentially what happened was I received an email one day. And this email was from AMC. And the email said, Verizon subscriber, sorry to let you know this, but you are going to be losing The Walking Dead as a show for you to watch. And you're going to be losing The Walking Dead before a certain date or at a certain date. And the new season was coming, and I was a little alarmed. I was like, what are you talking about? I can't watch the next season of The Walking Dead with Verizon. This makes no sense. I was flabbergasted. And then a couple days later, I received a email from Verizon apologizing for AMC's erroneous email saying that I will be losing The Walking Dead. They explained they were negotiating with AMC on extending their contract on Verizon Fios TV. And in doing so, yes, if they didn't complete negotiations at a certain time, AMC will no longer be on TV. But they were confident negotiations would be completed by then. They were apologizing for the alarm that it caused, because AMC in their email was also imploring Verizon subscribers to email and call customer service to demand that The Walking Dead not be taken off. Now, this is a common tactic that you will see that happens very often when it comes to cable television networks and the providers of cable television. They have a contract, they get on, they show their shows, and at some point they gotta negotiate. And AMC wanted more money. That basically what all these things come down to. You want more money, you're not getting more money, you appeal to the public sentiment. And usually when you're appealing to the public, you know that the public's gonna be on your side. And especially if you phrase it in a certain way, like Verizon's taking away your Walking Dead. So now, with that massive tangent over with, let's get into Marvel Studios / Disney and Sony Pictures. This is clearly a leak from Disney, because Disney is the one that had the issue with the current agreement. And if you're not aware, Sony Pictures has control over the rights of Spider-Man in just the movies. Not the comics, not the games, but for the movies. Sony Pictures has control over that. Now, Sony Pictures has made some massive duds when it comes to Spider-Man. They made the first 2 Spider-Man movies that featured Tobey Maguire, and they were good. Spider-Man 3 was a complete disaster. Bad story, way too many villains. That whole Tobey Maguire dancing in the streets and singing montage turned into a musical nonsense. And why would you ever have teeny tiny Topper Grace play Venom? Eddie Brock. Look at Eddie Brock in the comics. He looks like a bodybuilder. You got Topper Grace playing him. Like, did anyone who produced that movie actually look at the source material to realize who they were supposed to be creating a character around? Seriously. And there is some debate or argument on the quality of The Amazing Spider-Man featuring Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, but there's no debate whatsoever about The Amazing Spider-Man 2. It was trash. It was terrible. And so, with Sony Pictures having 3 duds in a row with Spider-Man, they were a little bit more bendable when it came to negotiating with Disney and allowing Spider-Man to take part in the MCU, which was madly successful. I mean, why not? At this point, when you can make Guardians of the Galaxy and have that be a huge success, featuring a talking raccoon in a tree that only says 3 words and it's successful, well, yeah, why can't you make a successful Spider-Man movie? And I'm very sure that this was always Disney's idea, that they would take whatever deal that Sony Pictures would allow them to do 2 movies, and then come back to the table to renegotiate. This was them saying, hey, look, we want to prove to you that we can make a successful Spider-Man movie. Oh, you want, to have an out of the deal if the movie doesn't gross $1 billion? It's nothing. Sure. Go ahead. You want to only give us 5% of the top dollar or whatever that thing is called? That's fine. We're going to make even more than that, putting him in Infinity War and Captain America Civil War, so many other movies. It's fine. But their goal was always to come back to the table to renegotiate with Sony Pictures after they had proven to Sony Pictures that they were better at telling these stories than Sony was, and that in a way that you would need us. Now, all reports say that they wanted a 50-50 split on the cost of producing these movies, and Sony said, nah, we ain't doing that. We like the deal just the way it is, and walked away from the table. Now, that is also a negotiation tactic. If you're not aware, people will walk away from negotiations as a way to try to convince the other party that they're really, really firm in their stance. They're dug in the trenches and they're not going to change their mind, knowing that in a couple of days or maybe even some weeks, you may come back to the table to renegotiate, but it kind of improves and strengthens their negotiation position. And what Disney has done in response to that is appeal to the public outcry. And the public says, Sony, you don't know how to make Spider-Man movies. Marvel Studios knows how to make Spider-Man movies. Give them what they want. It's playing mind games. It's essentially using the public to create pressure on Sony Pictures to come back to the table sooner and negotiate better terms. And it's going to work. I'm guaranteeing this now. Spider-Man will stay in the MCU. He isn't going anywhere. This is posturing by 2 billion-dollar corporations, haggling over who's spending what and how much money they're getting, how the pie is being split. And they are well aware that, especially Sony, is well aware that if they pull Spider-Man out of the MCU, the next 2 movies that they have Tom Holland signed on as contract are going to bomb. Period. What story can you roll with after the ending of Far From Home? If they started Tom Holland and the next Spider-Man without the MCU and just tried to ignore everything about the MCU, or were contractually not able to speak about anything that happened with the MCU, people will be watching this movie and being like, oh no, this isn't what I came for. This doesn't continue on the MCU universe and fall back on the history of that. There are no Easter eggs to things that have happened. All the things that we are used to with MCU movies, they're gonna bomb. And current Sony producers have shown, well, maybe not current, those Andrew Garfield movies aren't super current, but for the most part, they haven't proven they can actually get this done. So unless you want to doom your next 2 Spider-Man projects immediately before you even start production on them, you're gonna go back to Disney and you're gonna negotiate some fair revenue goals, some fair cost splits, whatever you gotta do to get the job done. So that's my video. I know it was a little long-winded there in me talking about this, but look, this is negotiation tactics 101. This isn't a super big deal. Spider-Man is going to stay in the MCU. Don't worry about it. This will be taken care of. But yeah, just a little change in pace in the kind of videos that I do. Thanks for listening, watching, whatever, and you guys have a great day. Peace.